Not one, not 12, but more than 20 different assets, including SBTC, all looking to help bring productivity to Bitcoin. The now standard of Bitcoin staking and restaking, the emergence of Bitcoin Fi or Bitcoin DeFi as the next era of decentralized finance that all are starting to look toward as well. Taking a step back and looking at what has happened in the Stacks ecosystem from the developers. We're looking at all of you engineers, and the developers are here. Not only was Stacks ranked as number 7 fastest growing developer ecosystem by Electric Capital, but also Code for Stacks had over 1,300 submissions last month, an all-time high. Developers are also participating in competitions like the Biddle Battle that saw over 80 submissions with winners, including those in real world assets and DeFi. From a traction standpoint, in Q1, we saw the next big unlock for SBTC, going from 1,000 to over 3,000 BTC deposited and SBTC minted, with institutions like Jump Crypto, UTXO, Asymmetric Research, SNZ, and many others as early participants. Stacks DeFi also reached an all-time high last month in March, and Zest reported a 110% increase in Stacks deposits for its Bitcoin liquidity profile. On the partnership side, we saw the recent announcement of the listing for Bitfinex and also the global custodian HexTrust announcing not only their partnership with Stacks, but also their integration and support of Stacks and SBTC. And the builders, those that have put their hard time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears into building applications, continue to push forward across the Stacks ecosystem. The Alex team has the DAMM, the DAM ahead, soon to be launched. BitFlow reports top yield pools between Stacks and USDC at nearly 50% APY. And a first of its kind in DeFi, a trade of Bitcoin with leverage while earning a passive yield. Thanks to Hermetica's USDH yield and Velar's HerpDex. But now we look ahead as we wrap out Q1 and we look to the rest of 2025 and what the ecosystem looks to accomplish and push forward the bounds of Bitcoin productivity. Today, we'll be talking about the openness and the further growth of SBTC, an updated roadmap thanks to each and every one of you out there as builders and developers and contributors, which we'll be talking more about in today's town hall. And also the growth of DeFi, what was to what will be, looking beyond as SBTC takes a further prominent role in some of the themes we already mentioned today. With that said, everyone, welcome to the Stacks Town Hall and enjoy the rest of the year of 2025. Off to you, Rick.
Thanks, Carl. Hello and welcome. My name is Rick. I work at the Stacks Foundation, and I am joined by Andrea and Adriano from Bitcoin L2 Labs. Today, we are going to discuss the Stacks roadmap. More specifically, I'm going to talk through all the items mentioned by the community members in various spaces, Stacks forum posts and other places, and then Andrea and Adriano are going to let you all know what already is in the works, in progress, but also especially what's ahead for the Stacks network. So without further ado, let's get into the first technical roadmap item. The most mentioned item is speed and throughput. If we explore that a little bit further, the community, users and builders desire an optimal user experience long-term, even when active users increase. So Adriano, I would like to ask you to talk through earlier launched features, things in progress, and future development that focus on potential gains for this specific item.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me, and it's a great question. So let's look back. When I joined, when we started, it was right after Nakamoto was launched. So it was back in October, and the community, as you rightly said, asked for more speed, more reliability. And so the first thing we shipped that was end of 2024 was Tenor Extend. That basically allows resetting the budget of transactions in terms of reads, write, execution that are allowed to be processed within a single tenure, and that gave more or less a 10x improvement over the chain throughput. Next, in Q1, we focused on reliability. So we started measuring pretty accurately and even a bit crazily, if you want, the reliability of the chain. And the goal that we wanted was to ensure that for every minute, there would be a number of Stacks block being produced, both consistently in terms of average speed, but also the distribution of the block times elapsed. And also to ensure that even in case a miner would have technical problems, there would be somebody else that could take over for them. And over the course of the quarter, we radically increased our reliability measures, and we now target 2 and actually three nines on a good day. There's still a lot to do, and that's what we're going to do next. So we are getting closer and closer to bringing the consensus protocol to what is a Byzantine agreement, so that designers can do their job by enforcing and policing what the miner is doing in a way that is the stronger and the strongest theoretical possible way. So we are doing this work right now. It's already in progress. There are 2 parts to it. The first one is under the umbrella of a stronger signer agreement, and the second one is under the umbrella of something we called two-phase commit. Why are we doing that? We are doing it because right now there are cases in which signers make a decision, they commit to it, but then they found out that because of a state change, they would need to change the decision, and they cannot. And so the chain suffers from it. So we're going to fix that. There are a couple of nice features that are in the works related to UX. We're going to be implementing transaction replay, which ensures that in case there's a Bitcoin fork, transactions on stacks are going to be replayed in the order in which they were processed on the original fork, which is now old, in the new canonical block fork. We are working on increasing throughput and speed. This is an open-ended problem, and I guess we're going to hear more and more about it. But the bottom line here is that we want stacks to be able to service our users organically, both in terms of peaks and in terms of normal transactions. And so what we're trying to understand here is how to size the chain so that it can be organically sustaining all kinds of transactions and all kinds of throughput. In order to do all this, we are working on our development velocity. So we are improving the quality of life for developers. We are improving and radically rewriting our testing suite to make sure that new developers can onboard quickly and develop confidently. And lastly, and I'm going to stop here because this will be another big item, we have basically completed our rewrite of the Clarity VM with a WASM engine. We are ironing out the last bugs. We are giving our finishing touches to the cost engine. And the idea is, it's a bit ambitious, but that's what we're going to try to do, is to ship it as soon as possible, roughly before the end of the quarter, ship it in such a way that it's off, but that can be enabled, and that can be used together with the existing Clarity engine. So that we'll be able to confidently know whether they are up to 1-to-1 in terms of parity, and eventually we can switch one for the other. I'm going to stop here and give it back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Adriano. That's very exciting. Now, a different category of feedback that has been mentioned a lot by community members can be summarized by ensuring that we have an optimal onboarding of users and liquidity from other ecosystems. Some people mention a native top-tier stablecoin, other people mention a top-tier bridge. There's cross-chain interoperability for SBTC. Andre, I know a lot of deals are already in the works here, and would you mind talk us through what's already in the pipeline and future plans here with the Business Development Working Group?
Sure thing. Thanks, Rick. I guess first, just to build off of what Adriano was saying, the user experience on Stacks over the past 6 months has improved significantly. Whether you're transacting on Bitflow or Zest or one of the many other applications in the ecosystem, transactions are fast, the network is stable, and that is largely due to a lot of the optimizations that we've made even post Nakamoto. So it's been really great to see the evolution of the Stacks network over the last 6 months. And to your point, now looking forward, we're really starting to think about how to onboard the majority of new users into the ecosystem. I think top of mind for me is really improving on-ramps. I think that's going to be critical. So having better bridges in place will allow people to really easily move stablecoins from other ecosystems into Stacks, which will help to bolster the DeFi liquidity on Stacks. I expect we'll have a major bridge go live this quarter. There are definitely several partnerships in the works to that end. And I think the fastest way to real adoption of the Stacks DeFi ecosystem is through improving stablecoin liquidity. And so we're working on several partnerships with a number of different stablecoins to grow our distribution and increase our trading activity. So this can really improve DEX trading volume, borrow and lending activity, and a variety of other key use cases. And so I think really the way that we win to this end is abstracting away a lot of the complexity. So removing friction from users to onboard into Stacks, creating really simple solutions that let people earn yield on their Bitcoin and deploy into DeFi, and trying to just do it in as few steps as possible and removing any hurdles that users might face as they're onboarding into the ecosystem.
Thank you, Andre. Let's take things back to core engineering. Since SBTC has seen a lot of success and is currently the flagship product to bring liquidity to Stacks, builders have highlighted that SBTC should become the preferred L2 BTC asset on the market. It should be superior compared to its competitors. So, Adriano, whether it's the most trustless assets, the most decentralized, or other parameters SBTC should excel in, talk us through the design discussion and how you are looking at the future of SBTC.
Oh boy, that's quite a question. We're gonna deep dive into it in the next session, so I'm gonna keep it very high level here. But we want to make sure that SBTC is the best L2 asset out there. And in doing that, we want to ensure that it has the best custody model, that it's the most trustless, and that it has the best UX, right? And so for each of these things, we are basically brainstorming, studying, designing, and what I really love here is that we are doing groundbreaking work. That's, I think, what we should be doing as leaders in the space. And I guess everybody's going to hear a bit more about it later on in the next couple hours and then in the next couple weeks. There are a few things that I think are top of mind for us. We care a lot about what it feels like in order to peg in. And so one low-hanging fruit there is that we wanted to give SBTC to the community as quickly as possible, and the UX of our bridge was kind of, could have been improved. So withdrawals are going to open in a couple of weeks, and they're going to feature a new UX, which Andre has been giving all his love, and I think it's great, and I'm super excited about it. Mid to long term, there are more radical changes that we are thinking about, and yeah, let's say that I'm just super excited about it.
Awesome, thank you, Adriano. Right, let's move things back to Andre. I think one thing that the business development working group has done great is to bring more institutional investors to SBTC, and especially having them deploy their BTC into Stacks apps and really make their Bitcoin productive. And a large part of this is due to the SBTC incentive program, as well as the DeFi incentives in the Stacks ecosystem. So I'm going to ask you, Andre, could you shine a light on how this will look like in the future, how we can maintain this attractive opportunity for institutions and users alike, and maybe what we are going to set up and set in place to continue this upward trend in terms of TVL, user growth, and liquidity?
Yeah, sure thing, Rick. So, I think when we think about phase one for SBTC, the incentives have really been designed around attracting capital into the ecosystem. It's how we've been able to achieve over 3,000 Bitcoin deployed on the network so far. And in phase two, we're really looking to double down on the success that we've seen there and actually look to foster more active deployment into DeFi. And so it's not just enough to, park your BTC and earn yield, but we actually want to see trading velocity increase, people taking out loans against BTC to access stablecoins, trading perpetuals, and a variety of other use cases. And so a lot of the incentives moving forward will be really geared around actually helping people to deploy their Bitcoin into DeFi. That said, we're also looking to double down on the yield program that we've already launched. So one of the unique things about Stacks and the current yield program is that we have a Bitcoin in, Bitcoin out model, which basically means that users just need to hold SBTC and they can earn Bitcoin yield in the form of more SBTC. This has been a very popular product. And we have some ideas that maybe we'll discuss in the next panel for how we double down on that in the future.
Awesome. So last question, and I'm going to ask you both this. Is there anything else that you are maybe short-term or long-term excited about for Stacks? Let's start with Adriano.
What I'm excited about is that it feels we are at the tipping point, right? Momentum is building. Nakamoto was an enabler. SBDC was the second piece of the puzzle. TVL is growing. We reached 3K SBDC in basically a matter of hours since we opened the second second deposit cap. And so this all builds, right? We're getting faster and more confident in the way we build and we test and we ship our code. And I can see that it's like there's a snowball, it's getting bigger and bigger, and that's what I'm excited about.
Andre,
Yeah.
you're up.
Yeah, sure. I think from my end, it's really just scaling the broader ecosystem. So, when I look at Stacks right now, we have the largest ecosystem of Bitcoin native applications. And I think that this year we will start to see some of these applications break out because of the improvements in the underlying technology, as well as the work that's being done on the BD and ecosystem side. And I think that the broader sort of macro backdrop is really well favored for the Bitcoin ecosystem this year, and overall, we're really well positioned to be able to capitalize on that momentum.
All right. And with that, we are going to end this discussion, but please stay where you are because we're going so much deeper into these specific items in the next few sessions, like Adriano said already. Andre, Adriano, thank you for joining me. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Check. Right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's next session on the future of SBTC, where we'll dive a little deeper into the technical evolution and long-term roadmap for programmable Bitcoin. As you know, I'm Andre Serrano. I'm joined here by my colleagues Adriano and Alex Miller. So welcome, guys. So I guess to kick things off, since the launch of SBTC, we've seen incredible momentum across the ecosystem that have really started to gather some real world feedback around the protocol. So today we're going to unpack a little bit about what we've learned so far, what's coming next, and what you all should expect about the future of SBTC. So with that said, Alex, Adriano, let's maybe start with some high-level lessons. What has been the feedback since we launched SBTC? What has stood out to you over the past few months? And let's maybe start with Alex, and then we'll go to Adriano.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see. Obviously, I think folks, it's been pretty good reception overall. We're still obviously kind of in the early days of it with the cap in place. So number one is obviously I've seen a lot of people who want to see the cap get lifted, and I know that's a progression one there too. I'm glad we're rolling out the way we are, but I also totally get why builders and users are excited for that. I think the other big thing we've heard is people who really want ways to like self-custody the underlying Bitcoin, or just different ways where they don't have to trust kind of any third parties to it. I think that makes a lot of sense for me. And, one of the design principles when I was in some of like the community working meetings that were coming up around how to design SBTC is one of the goals was always, what is the most like trust minimized way that we can do it, right? And this just this fundamental idea that SBTC should be the form of programmable Bitcoin that looks and feels the most like regular Bitcoin, or to like unprogrammable L1 Bitcoin. And so that's been kind of coded into from day one of like the research that we're doing of trying to figure that out and how to go about it. And so I've been excited to see some of the discussions that have been coming around that. And I know there will be more for folks to see on that soon, but I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me from it.
And you, Adriano?
So I don't want to repeat what Alex said here, but I guess one very important point here is that as builders of products, right? I think SBTC V1, the one that is out there, has shown us that there's an incredible appetite for people to do more with their Bitcoin. So I guess to me that's the biggest lesson learned. Everything around it, every next step is about minimizing friction and improving UX. That has a different set of meanings depending who you talk to, right? So my job, your job, Andre, as head of product, is to distill those feedback into something that is actionable and that we can turn into an even better product, right? And so that's what I'm excited about. That's what we're gonna do, and that's what I look forward.
Yeah, I think those are both really well said. Alex, to your point, just want to call out there because I also have heard the feedback about wanting to get the cap lifted, wanting to get withdrawals done, and that is on the roadmap over the next 60 to 90 days. I think that is the plan, is to activate withdrawals and get more Bitcoin into the protocol. So certainly top of mind there. But when we start to look out longer term, what are some of the top upgrades from your perspective? What are you most excited about on the long-term roadmap for SBTC, Alex?
Yeah. So I think there's both like the SBTC roadmap itself, which I know obviously you're doing a lot of work on, but also just thinking about how we integrate it more deeply and more generally across the ecosystem. So at Hero, we actually we've been doing a ton of work on the Explorer. And one of the things like we're thinking about there is how do we elevate SBTC into more of like a first-class citizen alongside STX on it. So, we've obviously got lots of existing fungible tokens on the network. Right now, SBTC shows up as kind of like just another fungible token. But it needs to not. I think it needs to be higher level, right? Stacks is all about making Bitcoin programmable. And in a lot of ways, SBTC is special and different than the other tokens out there. So I think as we work on the Explorer redesign, you're just going to see it elevated a lot there and look and function a lot like STX on it. And I think similarly, just I know talking to like some of the wallet teams out there and things, they're thinking about similar things. Is how do we make that? How do we just make it look and feel more like just Bitcoin and using Bitcoin faster and cheaper and easier, as opposed to using like an ERC20 or some other kind of token like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm looking forward to there is more fee abstraction. So basically making it possible for users to pay their gas fees with SBTC, and then under the hood, it swaps to STX. I feel like that could remove some of the complexity and some of the friction that that both of you have really been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Adriano, anything to add on that about what's exciting you on the SBTC roadmap?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm very excited to see the protocol out there in the wild, right? We have been giving it this rolled out release, which has worked great, but now it's time to open withdrawals, so giving it the last leg, allowing people to go the full journey in and out, and then eventually lift the deposit cap as well. What I love about it is that this is going to open a whole new set of use cases, right? Because once there's no cap, you have a lot more flexibility in what kind of DeFi applications you can build. You have a lot more abstractions that you can enable. And the market, as I call it, is already doing its thing, right? So right now you can actually do OTC swaps in and out of SBTC, even outside of the usual bridge, which is something that I love, right? It's one of the use cases which SBTC enables. And then, if you want to talk mid to long term, there are a lot of things that excite me, which boil down to better decentralization and better custody, right? To make it very simple, right now, when you're bridging in, you're transferring your assets to a set of signers, which are decentralized and trusted, right? But maybe we can do better. Maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. We are evaluating a lot of options, but that's something that's top of mind. Also because it's going to make operational complexity of the system a lot better.
Right. Sounds like a little bit of foreshadowing there, Adriano. Sounds like there's something that you're not fully saying, but it sounds exciting. Alex, you talked a little bit about the need for the user experience to feel native across DeFi applications. I'm curious to get your perspective. What else can we be doing there? What needs to happen that can really just improve that experience?
Yeah. So, like I said, I think one of the things I've thought about is, at the simplest level, like right now, if you look on the Explorer at like an SBTC send, it's a contract call because that is literally what it is. But there's no reason we can't abstract that, so you just like see how much SBTC was sent the same way you would with STX. The fee abstraction thing that, fee translation, you could call it, is that I think there's also a thing there where letting users pay for SBTC in SBTC transactions using SBTC while actually doing a swap on the back end for it is really good for like just the long-term viability of stacks. It means, it gives us one way, and I think this is one thing I've been part of a lot of discussions of, is how do we make sure that every BTC that comes into the Stacks network accrues value to the STX network itself and to the builders and people participating in it. And I think one really good way to do that is, you can say every time, cool, you can use SBTC for transactions, but we're actually going to charge you like higher gas fees for that, or we're going to charge you a fee to silently swap on the back end SBTC into STX, which I think is a double win, right? It's a much better user experience for those who don't want to have STX as the gas asset, but it still means that you're having to use STX for the gas asset, and actually the existing community is benefiting more from it, because obviously, you're getting basically a cheaper gas fee if you're using the STX, and you're creating the reason for that transaction to be happening on it. So I think that's a really big thing that we can be doing. Like I said, and then I think really driving around payments with it. Obviously, we've seen a lot of folks try different things on making it easy to create Venmo using BTC, but none of them have been very good on it, right? There's a lot of liquidity issues and things around that. And one of the really big advantages with SBTC is that it is just one big network, right? You don't have like these separate groups where you have to be thinking about liquidity there. it's all just in one big pot and can send across the same way that you have with native L1 Bitcoin. So I think the opportunity there is really big. And again, it just gives a way to really bring people into the ecosystem on it. And then the final really big priority, and again, I know there's a lot of discussions going on this area with folks, and I think we'll probably see more of it, is getting exchanges to adopt SBTC as like a direct withdrawal mechanism, right? So you can go buy Bitcoin at an exchange, and then the same way that like if you go to Coinbase right now and want to withdraw USDC, right, you can just pick what network you want to withdraw it onto. I want to see the same thing with SBTC. Or sorry, right, I should say with SBTC supporting the L2 withdrawals out of exchange. So you buy the Bitcoin, you say, hey, I want to withdraw it on this, and it's, hey, cheaper and faster if you withdraw it to the L2 than the L1.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think one of the points that you touched on is this idea that as Bitcoin TVL on the network grows, as activity grows, that should ideally accrue value to the success of the network. And so the easier we make it for people to pay transaction fees that are generating value for STX, it can really help to accrue this flywheel where increased activity that directly translates into the success of the network. So really looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely critical.
Agreed. So Adriano, coming over to you. So trying to paint a picture, SBTC 1 year from now, what does success look like?
Wonderful. So let's put our seatbelts on and let's start dreaming. I think when I think about it, SBTC is the de facto way to use Bitcoin, right? So you use it for payments, you use it for DeFi. It's entirely frictionless to use it. And, maybe if we do things right, you don't even know that you're using it on Stacks, right? You don't need to use STX to pay for fees, even though you are using them. You're using it under the hood. You can onboard by as simply as having Bitcoin on year one. You're going to onboard, swap it for SBTC, and then use it directly for doing whatever you need. We process maybe thousands of transactions per day, right? And those transactions serve a diverse set of users, from those that have very simple needs, they maybe just want to pay for coffee, to those that instead they are sophisticated and they want to implement more complex DeFi strategies. And lastly, maybe Alex hinted to it. If we do things right, you might find SBTC everywhere, right? So you will know where it belongs, on which chain, and on Stacks is gonna have unique features. But maybe you can look around and you can find it also on other L2.
Yeah, meeting users where they are. Okay, gentlemen, I think we're out of time, but it's been a great chat. Thank you for the discussion.
Yep. Thanks
Till
for
next
having us.
time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. For the third time, welcome back to this session on the Stacks DeFi roadmap. So this is a breakout year for Bitcoin DeFi, and we're seeing Stacks really starting to lead the charge with SBDC growth and the DeFi ecosystem on Stacks really starting to gain traction. And so today I'm joined here with my colleague and friend, Rena. And in this panel, we'll explore what it takes to grow a thriving DeFi ecosystem on Bitcoin. We'll be talking about incentives, onboarding new users, growing liquidity, and how SBTC can become a core building block for the broader Bitcoin ecosystem. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So Rena, a lot has happened over the past 3 months since SBTC has gone live. Can you just help to break down what happened in Stacks DeFi in Q1?
Absolutely. So a ton of things have been happening in Stacks DeFi. First, with SBTC going live, we've now raised 3,000 Bitcoin, slowly flowing into all of our DeFi apps between Zest and Granite, Valar, Bitflow, Alex, kind of everything under the sun. We're really showing that Bitcoin can be usable. We're now in this point that we have about maybe 250 million in TVL across our DeFi apps. And so you have a kind of a maturation of assets flowing via DEXs, assets flowing via perpetuals, but then also on-chain stacking. So SBTC actually unlocked on-chain stacking, which is huge because typically we've all stacked directly through the protocol, but with innovations like Stacking DAO and Lisa, you can actually earn your rewards directly in SBTC and then use that to farm out a different position across other DeFi apps like Zest. So it's really showing that we're increasing the utilization rate in DeFi. So I believe right now Zest, if I'm not mistaken, has about 450, 460 BTC deployed. That is one of the largest utilization rates in all of Stacks DeFi, I think 16% give or take. And so this is huge that we're proving to the market that people actually want to use their Bitcoin and actually deploy it. What's even more interesting about all of this is that if you are locked in the protocol with SBTC and doing the Bitcoin is More Earn program, you're actually earning with your SBTC as is. Now, when you take out a loan with that SBTC, you're earning an interest because of the yield rate that you're getting from the protocol rewards, but then your borrowing rate is even cheaper. So this is actually the best time to borrow against your Bitcoin on Stacks because of the unique incentives that Stacks offers. Two more things I kind of want to touch on for what's going on. USDH, so our friends at Hermetica launched this really interesting dollar Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, and essentially you can use that to take out a futures position on Bitcoin, and basically the team at Hermetica hedges kind of on your behalf so that your dollar earns more. So it's a really interesting protocol. I believe they just started kind of seeding new liquidity. They probably are at maybe 5 million, give or take. And that asset was actually used to launch the perpetuals on Valar for SBTC and Hermetica. So really interesting feature. You can now dollar cost in and kind of take long positions on your Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's been a ton happening. It's been really exciting to see just the clear demand that people want to do more with their Bitcoin, moving it from cold storage and actually deploying it to earn yield and take advantage of these various applications has been really exciting to see. And then I think, one other thing that you mentioned is that with the SBTC yield program, these opportunities can actually compound because with that program, you're earning about a base 3 to 5% APY on your Bitcoin, but then you can go and borrow against it on Zest and then take out a loan and actually unlock new yield opportunities on those stable coins and essentially run these sorts of looping strategies. So seeing these start to take off in Q1 has been exciting. And I think really starting to focus on how do we scale these over the coming months and into the end of the year. So Rena, a few months ago, you published a update on the Stacks DeFi roadmap, sort of a strategic plan for some of the things that we're working on to grow DeFi in the Stacks ecosystem. You talk about liquidity, especially on some key pairs. How are things progressing?
So we are surely but surely making our way towards our liquidity progress. So we had publicly put out that we want to get about 10 million in a liquidity infusion on key and critical pairs that kind of benefit all of the dApps in our ecosystem. So the first pair is STX SBTC, the second being STX and AEUSDC. AEUSDC is our wrapped asset for a stablecoin until we go for native USDC, which is a work in progress. We already have 8.5, close to 9 million out of the 10 million deployed directly. These are from the Stacks kind of core treasury from various ecosystem entities contributing, because we want to make sure these DEX pools are healthy so that people can actually liquidate their loans via Zest or Granite, or take out something on the perpetuals via Valar. So we're almost there on our 10 million goal. We likely should hit it in the next couple weeks, if not sooner. And then the bar will have to get raised higher.
Yeah, so really taking the Stacks DeFi ecosystem from 0 to 1, right? Getting over that initial bootstrapping hurdle is really where the focus has been. Yeah.
It really is. And like even more so, if you looked at our Q1 stablecoin liquidity across all other ecosystems, by putting in that 6-7 million, we have now grown, I think, 430% from the stablecoin report across other ecosystems. Building that momentum every single month by month brings us into a stronger position as the leading Bitcoin L2 for Bitcoin Fi.
Absolutely. And of course, these opportunities can compound where once we get this initial liquidity in, it attracts more users and more traders, and hopefully it just balloons from there. So with that said, I want to get a sense for what's next, what's top of mind. I know you've been working a lot on protocol incentives to attract these new users. How are you thinking about this? What's the approach? Give us some details there.
So twofold on protocol incentives that we're looking at. The first is directly benefiting our builders. So the ecosystem has set aside a treasury amount so that builders can actually receive assets to be able to incentivize yield on their own protocol. Now, most of our protocols are pre-TGE, and so points programs do need some help to get along the way so that they can finally get to that maturation point that they can TGE. So the ecosystem is committed behind all of our DeFi dApps, making sure that they have the incentives to come to pass to their users so that our TVL grows collectively. That's like key priority number one. The second is on the institutional side. So we're able to bootstrap our own protocols at 10 to 15 million in liquidity, but we're going to need more, especially for other assets as they come into the ecosystem. So we are working with very sophisticated institutions to bring another 50, 60 million into our ecosystem, not only for AEUSDC, but for SBTC as well, making sure that all of that liquidity is 100% deployed on chain, and these institutions are known for looping and farming across and making sure that they're using the plethora of our stack steps. And then number three, less in the incentives, but more as we mature as a DeFi ecosystem. An on-chain market maker has been brought in. They will manage the spreads and depths across our various dexes from Bitflow, Valar, and Alex, making sure that our spreads are tight and that we have as little to none slippage as we can go for.
Yeah. I feel like we've been talking about Bitcoin summer for the past couple of years now, and I think it's finally going to be here this year when we start to put the pieces together of what you're talking about, between seeing a lot of the DeFi apps on Stack, starting TGE, getting listings on exchanges, seeing institutions coming in size. It feels like all the pieces are there to really see a breakout year, and we might finally get our Bitcoin summer.
We're going to get our Bitcoin summer, and like the most important aspect in all of this is we're actually unlocking bridges too. So we're going to be bringing in liquidity from other ecosystems back into ours, exactly where it belongs. So I'm excited for Axelar to be going live soon and other bridges to come.
Yeah, so speaking of that, Reno, why is interoperability important for DeFi growth?
I think it's really important for the growth of stablecoins in our ecosystem more so than anything else. Bitcoin, let's set that aside, but for teams like Hermetica who are growing their asset, for us growing AEUSDC is kind of our key milestone before native USDC or another kind of tier one stablecoin. We have to meet the market where they are. They're already participating heavily in ETH, and ensure that they're accessing the opportunities that we present as a Bitcoin L2.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think just removing some of that friction for users to onboard from these other ecosystems is going to help a lot with some of these broader DeFi and liquidity goals. So, Rena, I know we're coming up on time. Any final thoughts for folks that you want people to take away from this conversation?
I think what I'm like most excited about is just the quality of our builders and what they're running towards. They are creating innovative products on Bitcoin DeFi that hasn't been seen in any other markets. Like just what they are putting out and the measures and steps that they're taking to safeguard people's Bitcoin is key and critical. The second really is just seeing all of the Bitcoin flowing through SBTC and stables and such into our projects. It's about time that Bitcoin and that $1 trillion is finally unlocked and Stacks is pushing it forward.
Yeah, the Bitcoin is going to flow. We've only just scratched the surface. I think I was looking at it recently. It's just just over 1% of Bitcoin has been deployed into DeFi and L2s. So just barely starting to scratch the surface. And I think this is going to be a breakout year given all the developments, all the applications that we've talked about here today. So with that said, thank you everyone. Until next time.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our panel on DeFi AI, the Bitcoin DeFi future is AI on Stacks. Anyone in the Stacks ecosystem knows a thing or two about finding intersections between ideas. And so as Stacks is looking to scale Bitcoin, AI is looking to enhance DeFi. Our panel today is all about the future of Bitcoin DeFi through this lens of artificial intelligence. And so we'll chat today on Bitcoin being the currency of AI, as well as diving into deeper use cases here in the Stacks ecosystem. I'm Jason. I do marketing at Trust Machines. So I'd first like to start out quickly, letting all of our panelists introduce themselves and their projects. Dylan, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jason. Great to be here. I'm Dylan, the co-founder of Bitflow Finance. We built decentralized exchange infrastructure that makes it easy to trade and earn with your Bitcoin, making it easy for that liquidity to flow.
Amazing. Jason, I'll pass it to a fellow Jason.
All right. Well, I'm Jason. I'm a builder with the AI BTC Dev Working Group. So we call ourselves AI BTC because we're at the intersection of those two, exploring what the autonomy of agents can bring to the sovereignty and self-custody of Bitcoin.
And we'll go to your fellow AI BTC member here,
Hi.
Publius.
Hey, how's it going? I am Jason's partner in crime on AI BTC. We're trying to make AI DAOs happen, and we've already gotten AIs using Stacks and Bitcoin. So we're excited for the next stage.
Amazing. And last but not least, Hayden.
Hi, I'm Hadan with the Alex Lab Foundation. At Alex, we're the largest DEX on Stacks and across Bitcoin DeFi layers. And we're using AI to create a more seamless user interface through AI smart contracts.
And Hadan, I would love to start with you here to dig into some of the challenges first, so then we can talk about, some of the solutions that AI brings. What are you seeing over with Alex, or just in general in your research on some challenges with AI implementation?
Sure. So I'd say, the reason that we're pursuing AI-powered smart contracts and AI-powered interface is, if anyone's onboarded someone new into DeFi, you sort of learn along the process that you get a whole lot of questions. What's a slippage? What's impermanent loss? What does it mean to be a liquidity provider? And by using an AI interface, you can have 24/7 customer support. But more importantly than that, it's that through AI-powered smart contracts, for instance, a user through a text or even a voice interface can directly say, you know, I want to swap 0.05 Bitcoin into stacks. The AI will respond back what the slippage, what the minimum rate is. The user can hit confirm. The AI can say what the transaction fees are. And this way, it's very smooth and seamless instead of having to jump between boxes or manage multiple wallet interfaces or multiple layers.
Dylan, I would love to go to you for the same question on the Bitflow side. And what you all are seeing is maybe immediate or the newest challenges here in figuring out AI and DeFi.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a lot of kind of Web 2 problems, maybe with like a Web 3 security spin, and then also with the 24/7 liveness. When you're talking about AI powered smart contracts, right? Smart contracts are not self-executing. So what we've deployed is like each user that logs in to the app gets their own personal smart contract wallet. And then there's a keeper service running in the background that gets to execute requests that they've made. And it's like an approved set of actions, like, you know, performing a trade or staking, right? Auto harvesting the yield. But the AIs are limited in a secure way to only execute those actions, and only, you know, execute those actions in a way where the funds can go exclusively back to that user. And also just on the security side, you know, that was it was a fun challenge to work through, right? But so with each user getting their own personal smart contract wallet, they're the only entity that can withdraw funds from that wallet. So it's the challenges are making something that isn't naturally self-executing feel like magic, and also doing it in a secure way.
That's a great segue too, because the opportunity here is to make, you know, things feel like magic, as you said, to use your words, Dylan. Publius, maybe I go to you here. What are the opportunities you're seeing as far as some of these challenges exist? New challenges will come up. Mainstream adoption of AI is still strong. Where are you like really leaning in when you're thinking about the opportunity here in this space?
Yeah, sure. I personally think that over 90, maybe even over 99% of all on-chain transactions within the next 10 years will be done through machine intelligence. And so if you also believe that, then you'd say, okay, well, what are the things that the machines are going to do? They can trade for you, but they also might end up being more agentic than they are today. Where today we prompt them to get them to work. Maybe in several years they actually just work autonomously, and I think there's a potential to create AI-only companies where basically you have fully autonomous AIs operating as companies with their own cap tables, and I think that's going to be like a multi-billion, maybe trillion-plus-dollar opportunity. I think it's going to happen on Bitcoin, and it's why we are focusing on AI DAOs. Right now, we're basically building something that is almost like an AI assisted DAO with security and just like fail safes in place. But who knows? Maybe several years from now, it's all AI doing everything. So we just think it's one of the biggest opportunities we can imagine. So that's what we're working on.
Thinking about it completely, you know, automating this process, we have to balance security, right? And we have to balance the idea that the Bitcoin ethos and people coming to Bitcoin, you know, want that reserve of security. Jason, maybe you can speak to this. How do we balance innovating at a fast clip with AI and making things more automatic and autonomous with making sure that we're communicating the proper amount of security?
Definitely a good thing to consider. And I think Dylan hit on a good point earlier too. It's like first off, giving users ways to self-custody their funds, but to enable additional actions. I think that's an awesome way to go about it. I love what they're doing with keepers. The idea that like there's a smart contract out there that holds my funds. I'm the only person who can withdraw, but these other actions can still happen autonomously. We're doing something very similar to that, but bigger picture there, my answer is to do things in layers. We're not going to go full on to that 100% autonomous world, but DAOs have gotten a bad rap because the autonomy really hasn't been there. And I think this is an opportunity to kind of layer that into place. So with what we're building in particular, we're starting with some predefined, lower quorum, easier to vote on actions, and just securing that loop of going from proposal being created to proposal being concluded with as much automation as possible and feeling safe. And also just leveraging what we have in Clarity to be able to create some of these smart contracts for a purpose. So just like you have one that would be for user custody, you have another that represents like a DAO's treasury. And there's, again, all sorts of these different layers that play together to expose as little as possible, but enable us to move as fast as possible.
I love that. Hadan, I want to go to you on the builder side of this conversation. If we're talking to builders specifically in Stacks, where should they be looking, or how should they be thinking about implementing AI into their building stacks, into their process, what they want to offer for feature sets?
Sure. I think the starting place would be to approach it from the sort of user experience. And that our view, mass adoption is downstream of really an intuitive user experience. Find what those sort of friction points are, whether it's questions that users ask frequently, elements of the user interface or user experience that they find cumbersome or non-intuitive. Sometimes it helps to take someone who's only used Web 2 and set them down in front of Web 3 for the first time and just see, like what's the starting point? How do they begin to interact with it? How do they engage? And from there, work your way into how can you can start from the most basic level, say just AI as sort of like an automated FAQ that will address those initial questions, and then progressively start addressing those sort of pain points little by little, always bearing security in mind, and seeing if this is creating value, if this is, making this easier and more intuitive for users to interact with. That's been the approach that we're taking.
I love that. I want to wrap. I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the call. I want to wrap our conversation up by going just a little bit to the higher level and talking about AI and Bitcoin together. So if I maybe level this to the whole panel here and jump in if you have an answer, do you believe that BTC Bitcoin is going to be the set currency for AI at a broader level, not just Stacks DeFi, not just Bitcoin DeFi, but where do we feel like these two live together in a broader sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, just yes. Yeah. I think the novelty of combining AI and DeFi is that's kind of a given everywhere, but I think everybody on this panel is kind of making a bet on permanence and performance, right? And we're doing that by building on Bitcoin, which has this gravity to it where you feel like it's going to be around for the next 10, 50, 100 plus years. And also with performance and great user X by leveraging layer 2s like Stacks.
Publius, go ahead.
Yeah, there's no capital controls on Bitcoin, and that means Bitcoin is a non-sovereign currency. And so if you have a global internet of AI agents that are using a currency and building for the future and trying to do business with each other, probably not going to choose something that they can get rubbed. So but there's a really great post from Arthur Hayes called Massa, M-A-S-S-A, and another one called MoAI, M-O-I-A. Those are like definitely worth reading. Some of those writings sort of inspired some of our work, at least, and I think it'll put a seed of an idea in your head of where this is all going.
Amazing. I know we only just scratched the surface with this, but we are unfortunately out of time. Thank you everybody for chatting about DeFi and AI. And if you're listening to this and you want to learn more, feel free to follow any of these people on Twitter and learn more, or X, I should say. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be talking with so many great Stacks builders today. My name is Brandon on the marketing team here at Trust Machines. On this panel, we're going to be hearing from, I'm just going to go off the list. We got Tycho of Stacking DAO, Blaze from Granite, Diego from Bitflow, Jacob from Hermetica, Ken from Xverse, Mithil from Velar, and Mark from Leather. We have a lot to get through today, so I'm just going to skip through all the individual intros. We're going to rapid fire some questions to each speaker. And I think at the end of this panel, we're all going to be a little more excited on where this ecosystem of apps is headed. Tycho, I'm going to start with you. Many know Tycho as the founder of Zest Protocol. Today on this panel is representing Stacking DAO. Stacking DAO recently shared a metric that over 550 million STX has been stacked, marking an all-time high in stacking TVL. I'm sure it's higher since that metric was shared a week or two ago, but of that amount, only about 12% of it was in liquid stacking. So Tycho, maybe to start, for those that don't know, can you tell us a little bit about Stacking DAO and how liquid stacking compares to native stacking?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here, everyone. Yeah, so to make the answer as brief as possible, right? So you have native stacking, which is very similar to native staking on Ethereum or something, where basically you lock your tokens for 2 weeks or longer to get yield. Whereas with liquid stacking, you lock your tokens, you get yield immediately, and then you can also swap out of your stacked position at any time. So basically, it's more retail friendly. It offers sort of more flexibility than native stacking.
And how does something like the total amount deployed in liquid stacking benefit the Stacks ecosystem versus maybe TVL in native stacking?
Yeah, so well, for one, liquid stacked STX has a tokenized representation, right? So if I have one STX and I stack it with Stacking DAO in liquid stacking, then that means that I get one staked STX, or staked STX BTC if I choose SBTC yield. And I can then deploy that into DeFi, right? I can deploy that into Bitflow. I can deploy it into Zest Protocol to earn extra yield against it, to borrow against it. But I can also swap out of it immediately for stacks again. So yeah, it counts as on-chain TVL on DeFi Llama. And yeah, it's just a great way to utilize your STX flexibly across all the great opportunities that the ecosystem offers.
Great points. And Stacking DAO recently rolled out some new products like a native stacking pool with 0 fees, and then also STX BTC. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so I mean, for one, right, native stacking still has a use case, right? Specifically, if you want to stay stacked for say 6 months or longer, right? You're sort of that core believer, and you're never going to sell your stacks. Then native stacking is still a good option, and then the stacking pool with Stacking DAO is then the best option because it has 0 fees, right? As opposed to other solutions in the space. And Stake Stacks BTC is essentially with the SBTC launch on Stacks, right, which brought BTC onto the Stacks chain, it became possible to also offer yield for stacking in SBTC, right, while staying liquid. So that's what Staked Stacks BTC offers. So in terms of the offering for Stacking DAO, we now have staked STX, right? Number one, you stake your STX, you get a liquid token, and you get more yield in STX. Then there is staked STX BTC. You stake your STX and you get yield in SBTC. You also receive a liquid token. And native stacking, no liquid token, 2-week lockups, but the highest yield and yield in BTC.
Great, thank you. Blaze, I want to turn it over to you. So Granite is maybe the newest protocol on this panel, have some pretty big claims of being the safest way to borrow against your Bitcoin. Can you give us a very brief walkthrough of Granite and some of the safety measures that the protocol has in place?
Yeah, I would be happy to. We built Granite with a fundamentally different security posture than you tend to find in DeFi lend borrow markets. And we did this because there are a lot of excellent DeFi lend borrow models, but Bitcoin holders or hodlers are very risk averse with their Bitcoin, and so they don't want to deploy it unless you can mitigate as many risks as possible. So the protocol it only allows you to deposit USDC as a lender and only allows you to borrow against SBTC as collateral as a borrower. And that means that there is no collateral rehypothecation and there's only a single borrowable asset, which reduces some of the key risks in DeFi lend borrow, like liquidity risks and pool contagion risks that could put your collateral at risk. The other big innovation that we're pushing for here is soft liquidations. So in most DeFi lending protocols, when you hit your liquidation point as a borrower, it opens up a large percentage of your capital liquidation. Typically, it's somewhere between 50 to 100% of your debt and then the associated collateral. On Granite, we only liquidate you back to the point of account health. And so if you're 0.5% below your liquidation point, we liquidate 0.5% back. And this makes it much safer, we think, for borrowers to take larger positions because you're less likely to get wrecked on a price wick down.
Awesome. And what are the sort of primary metrics or goals that you're paying attention to as Granite gets closer to opening up its beta program? And how will that translate to benefiting the Stacks ecosystem as a whole?
Yeah, so we're still really early in the launch of Granite. We've been in a closed beta for the last, I think, 2 months now. And we are eyeing the end of that closed beta very soon. At this point, we are mostly focused on getting stablecoins into the protocol. So USDC from LPs to be borrowed by the borrowers. And then that's our primary metric. And then our secondary one is going to be the actual quantity of borrows by borrowers, because that obviously implies that there's SBTC being used as collateral. But that's our North Star at this point, is like how much USDC can we get in as liquidity? And that's benefiting Stacks because I think right now that's one of the biggest things the ecosystem is focused on in terms of jumpstarting this DeFi ecosystem, is getting USDC liquidity in.
Great. Thank you, Blaze. And Diego, I'm going to turn it over to you. So BitFlow emphasizes abstraction and removing complexity from the user experience, but there's still a lot going on under the hood. So can you share more about how you approach kind of balancing that user experience?
Sure. No, thanks for that, Brendan. So at BitFlow, we believe that great UX in DeFi doesn't mean just dumbing things down. It's just really making powerful things feel super simple. So there's a lot going on under the hood, from more complex routing logic for the DEX aggregator that finds the best rate, to single-sided liquidity math, to farming mechanism. One of the things that we launched latest, or that's powering a lot of this, from the DCA dollar costing average to the aggregator to liquidity pools, is BitFlow Keeper. So these are basically smart automation contracts on chain. But the goal is just to make all that disappear. Managing liquidity positions, for example, LPs, is really painful for the user. We want to make that super easy, where users can just come in, they can restake it, auto compound their rewards without actually having to manually come in every day or every week or whatever it is. And that's all happening on chain. So at the end of the day, building on Bitcoin demands a higher standard, but at the same time, we have to make it as simple as possible and to decrease those barriers of entries, right? And I think those are kind of good examples. The DCA is also one where you're, dollar costing average, but you're doing that on chain. And I think that's a first in the ecosystem. You can actually DCA into Bitcoin, SBTC, Runes, and any of the SIP10 and Stacks tokens as well.
Great. And BitFlow has seen a lot of success also in capturing some of the L1 asset market share, especially with Runes. We've seen Dog and others. So can you share more about that strategy of introducing Stacks to maybe users that are more familiar with L1 assets and haven't necessarily touched Stacks yet?
Sure. I think we all in this room and in this call believe that Bitcoin, that for Bitcoin to scale, we need new use cases in DeFi. So with Dog, for example, we met users where they were. I think part of that campaign was Leonida's push to get Dog listed in as many decentralized exchanges as possible. But then we also tapped into the new tools that didn't exist anywhere on the marketplaces or DEXs or whatever it is. And that was what they call it, the Dog costing average, which is basically the DCA. So it allows users for the first time to do that on chain with real liquidity. So they're not just trading; they could do auto buy, auto sell at certain price points and build their Dog costing average strategy. And that was something that really caught their attention. It was something that was new. It was something that you can't do anywhere else. And that opens the door to Stacks because once users see that they can play around with DCA, they can earn, they can swap, and they can automate this, I think they stick around.
Great. We got to keep moving. So thank you, Diego. Jacob, want to throw it over to you. So USDH has been growing pretty quickly. There was a really great post from CryptoRank last week that showed a 437% growth in the overall stablecoin market cap on Stacks in Q1. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to USDH. So can you talk a little bit about the mechanics of USDH and how it differs from most of the other stablecoins on the market?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brendan. So if you look at the stablecoin market, you really see like two major design spaces today, which is fiat collateralized stablecoins. Those are the Tethers and Circles of the world. And then you see crypto collateralized stablecoins that really also, again, fork into two different ways of doing it. One is an over collateralized design where you lock up Bitcoin or other crypto assets and then borrow against it. We think that this system is not very scalable and comes with UI and UX challenges. And so what we've chosen for Hermetica USDH is a delta neutral design where you essentially couple a spot Bitcoin position with a short on the futures market that locks in the dollar value of Bitcoin. We issue that on chain as USDH. And that has a lot of different benefits. It's very capital efficient. You can use 100% of the value of Bitcoin. It has a really good UI UX. You can maintain the peg very efficiently. And it comes with the added benefit of having a very significant, reliable, stable yield that we pass on to our users. And I think that is one of the reasons why we've seen USDH grow so much. We have had, I think, 18% APY since launch. And folks can access that on Stacks by just a couple of clicks.
Great. And time for one last little question. Why is the growth of USDH and maybe stablecoins more generally so important for the Stacks ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any DeFi ecosystem across the whole, crypto, you see that stablecoins are really the foundational asset for commerce. They're one half of every transaction, be it on the spot markets, on perpetual futures markets, on borrow lend markets. So if you want to scale DeFi on Stacks, we have to scale stablecoin liquidity. Blaze from Granite just touched on that. On Stacks, we have a very unique opportunity where we can scale with being still on the Bitcoin standard, because USDH is on the Bitcoin standard. It's fully backed by Bitcoin. And so we have the ability to scale stablecoin liquidity by still actually holding Bitcoin.
Great. Thank you, Jacob. Ken, going to turn it over to you. So really great to hear from you today. Xverse has had its hand in so many Bitcoin related things lately, including ordinals, runes, more recently Starknet and Bob, and of course, Stacks. Xverse operates also one of the largest stacking pools. It makes it easy to earn native BTC in-app directly. What can you tell us about the success of Xverse pool and maybe any future plans that you might be able to share with us?
Sure, yeah. So the stacking pool is part of Xverse Earn. So the vision there is really to make it simple for people to deploy their Bitcoin assets and earn a yield. And we really just focus on the user experience and being reliable. So our pool has been distributing rewards since basically the first cycle where rewards were there since in 2021. And we've grown steadily in TVL to 166 million STX today. And I think users have just really come to trust Xverse as the place where they can put their STX, lock it up, earn a yield. Everything is still in your wallet. And we do plan on expanding this in the future to more protocols, including the SBTC yields, so that users can earn a yield. Yeah.
Great. And on a kind of similar topic, you recently rolled out cross-chain Xverse swaps. And what can you tell us about how that maybe helps onboard more people into Stacks?
Yeah, so we rolled out the swaps between Stacks and Bitcoin recently, part of Xverse cross-chain swaps. And actually, this has been one of the biggest sources of friction for users onboarding to Stacks for a really long time. Before this, you had to go to a centralized exchange, swap your Bitcoin or something else into Stacks, and then send it to your Xverse wallet. And now you can basically do that directly within Xverse and without KYC in basically 99% of the cases. We're also hoping to roll out BTC to SBTC and back soon as well. The ultimate goal there is to make asset transfers between layers as seamless as possible.
Good stuff. Thank you, Ken. Mithil, going to throw it over to you. First of all, congratulations on the launch of Velar's Perp Dex. I know it's been a long time coming. How, I guess, has it just been received by the community so far since you launched it?
Hey, Brendan, thanks a lot. It's congrats to all of us. First of all, I think as Stacks ecosystem, we have leveled up with derivatives, and it took very long time, but it was great. We have even though for the first few weeks we are just testing, because it's for the first time we are seeing derivatives markets on Stacks, and we are still making sure everything, Nakamoto works well, SBTC works well, all the oracles work well. So even though we have asked people not to use it, we are getting over 150 to 200 active users on it, which is great.
It's amazing. You partnered with Hermetica also to offer a 5% yield on USDH collateral when trading. So can you speak a little bit more to that announcement and why it's sort of such a game changer compared to a lot of other options out there?
Sure. So our PerpDex, Velar PerpDex on Stacks works in a different way from how you usually trade perpetual futures on centralized exchanges. It works in a similar way to how a DEX works. So liquidity is a very crucial part of that structure when you are running a GMX style PerpDex, like how Velar PerpDex is, which is an AMM style PerpDex. So it's as equal to as how important traders and volume is to our PerpDex, liquidity is equally important. So giving 5% yield to people who are putting USDH collateral helps with that liquidity, helps motivate the liquidity providers, and we are going to also start Velar rewards and few other campaigns to motivate liquidity providers in our PerpDex.
Amazing. Thank you. Mark, going to throw it over to you. Last but not least, we've continued to see Lether double down on Stacks. What keeps you excited about building here?
Yeah, well, we view it as really the best way to keep Bitcoin and Bitcoin-based assets on-chain and trust minimized, and enable use cases without having to rely on off-chain parties or indexers or a lot of stuff you see just about one. And so Stacks, of course, has a long track record of building in that manner. And we just think it's better to double down on a single technology or a single sort of technology stack than try to go wide and sort of dilute our proposition.
Great. And you recently launched Lether Earn. Lockstacks was sort of phased out, and now Lether Earn is this new sort of destination. I think you have some big plans for Lether Earn. What can you share?
Yeah, well, Lether Earn, as we call it, is really just a stepping stone to, I would say, a revamp of what we're doing for Lether. We're going to release a new version of our web property later this month. Lether itself is going to be front and center. The whole idea of earning yield with Bitcoin is going to be what we focus on, and we leverage Stacks for that more than anything else. So the sort of new Lether experience will be all about how to get more yields from various opportunities on Stacks. And so, yeah, the sort of progression has been starting with stacking, and we had a property that was more sort of independent at the start. We brought it within the brand, and we're making it central to what we do.
Great. And final question. This is maybe a quick one. Maybe I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't asking this on behalf of the community. When mobile?
Next month. Yeah, it's almost here. So it's been highly anticipated, and our mobile app as well will be focused on earn opportunities on Stacks. Powered by SBTC, of course. And so we're very excited about that, and looking for everyone's feedback.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited. I think that wraps up our panel and our time. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and let's have a great 2025.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Sonato, co-founder of Gamma.io, and we're a creator launchpad and marketplace on Bitcoin in general. So that includes stacks and ordinals on L1. And I'm here today to show some new things that we've been building that we think will be a really big win for creators, collectors, traders, and the like. And so just get my window sorted here. Perfect. So yeah, we the last probably coming on 4 years now, we started in the Stacks ecosystem, and we were one of like the main apps since then, and building out both tooling for creators and allowing them to launch collections and not have to create their own smart contracts. And then of course, since then, since ordinals came about, we also built tooling on L1. And one of the things that we've been really excited about since then is taking this user base that we've built up on Bitcoin L1 and kind of helping them bridge to Stacks and L2. And so we've been building this on a new version of our site that is currently at beta.gamma.io. It'll look slightly different than what you're seeing here, because this is actually the very first look. You'll see this going live in just a few hours later today. But this is the early preview of that. So if you come to beta.gamma.io either now or later today to see all the features that we're about to ship, if you come with your Xverse or your Leather wallet, you'll be able to connect. If you're a collector or trader or creator on both L1 and L2, you'll be automatically prompted to link those wallets together, and you'll have a unified experience where you can see all of your collectibles, see all of the collections that you've launched, and have a single profile that you can share with people. So if you come to the site today, you'll see we have these 3 links, but later today we're finally adding this 4th one here called Explore. And Explore aims to really make it significantly easier to find interesting works, whether they be new releases, whether they be things that are picking up on secondary, or perhaps they're by an OG artist or creator in the space. You'll be able to find them regardless of what you're looking for. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. The Explore homepage, as I'll call it, is really just meant to be kind of like a no unstructured direction, like you're just kind of wanting to search until something catches your eye. And you'll see there's lots of different works that you can find from across the Bitcoin ecosystem. We're actually hosting an event in Vegas, so if you come across this one, you'll be able to claim 20% off those tickets. But you know, as you're going through, you can really just kind of peruse and see what you find. You'll see like this collection, for example, by Weasley. He's the artist behind the Megapon Apes collection. And you know, you may uncover something interesting. We have a few other ways that you can explore things now too. And I'll just jump right in, for example, to collections here. And you can see these are going to be collections that have launched or are trading on both Bitcoin and Stacks. For today, for example, I can just filter and say I want to see just the Stacks collections. And then you have all of these other filters available to you. So you can go to grid view here. Looks like we have some fun collections dropping here, and you can, you know, kind of take a look at all of the different, you know, data available. You can see BNS here, and you can kind of just like see, you know, what activity is happening and what's going on. But you can also filter this. So, you know, let's say you come in here and you want to say, well, I just want to see, you know, PFP collections. You know, maybe you're looking out for you know, one of the NFT collections that, you know, also have, you know, maybe a meme coin or something associated, and you've been trading that and you kind of want to join the community in a deeper way. You can find all of those here. So whether it's, you know, a pass or a PFP collection or utility-based collection, and then you can really explore them and you know, in whatever way you see fit. So, you know, the Giga Pepe crew, for example, like I see they're really trending community of like OG collectors and creators. So, you know, this is now at the top of our trending, for example. So you can really see this, you know, based on all the data that's available. So yeah, that's really like the gist of what we're shipping. We also have lots of other data available. So let's say you want to see perhaps less of this side of things, you can go to our top charts and you can see historical data on top collections and drops and creators and collectors. So all of this data is just much more available to you, and you can really dive in and find what you're looking for. And then, of course, if you're interested in kind of the art side of things, we also have this final section we've added, which is called the edit. And this is a Bitcoin art editorial where we'll actually give some expert commentary and, you know, maybe share some information on why this is a special collection that's coming up. So anyway, that's all for now. You can, like I said, at beta.gamma.io, you can see maybe half of this experience now, but later today you can come back and you can get the whole thing and take a look and let us know what you think. Thanks again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Hahn. Thanks for joining this session. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about a new program that is going to be that is currently launched in the Stacks ecosystem, and ultimately the reason why we're doing this, who it's for, and why people should care about it. So let's start by going to late 2024. There were a few key things that took place in the Stacks ecosystem. One, the Nakamoto upgrade was officially launched. The upgrade was successfully completed, which enabled the launch of SBTC. And with the launch of SBTC, builders now had the access to implement programmable Bitcoin in their applications. And so with these two things, there was the really good timing of the Electric Capital report coming out also in late 2024. And with that report, it had Stacks as listed as the 7th fastest growing developer ecosystem throughout the entire industry. So if you combine these three tasty ingredients, what you have is a very appetizing meal for builders. And that's ultimately what we want to be doing, is enticing and attracting more builders into the Stacks ecosystem. So in order to do that, in order to attract, onboard, and retain more developers in the ecosystem, there are a few things that need to take place. One is having a consistent stream of builder opportunities for existing and new builders to get involved in and to join. And so in the Stacks ecosystem, we are constantly doing this on a monthly basis with a program called Code for Stacks, where builders can ultimately apply for winning STX tokens, up to 10,000 STX tokens on a monthly basis, simply by just working on their projects consistently. And then, of course, as we've done in previous years, there's hackathons. Last year in 2024, we had 6 hackathons throughout the entire ecosystem. This year, there's going to be a minimum of 8, if not more, with the 3rd one currently ongoing right now, and the 2nd one completing just a few weeks ago. There was 1 week in between where Hackathon 2 ended and Hackathon 3 started. So with these initiatives that ultimately attract builders and onboard them into the ecosystem, how can we serve these builders in the ecosystem and further retain them? And that's where Stacks Ascent comes into play. We got to this design of the program by asking ourselves the question of, what if your side project could evolve into a fully funded startup on Bitcoin? What would that look like? And that's where we came up with this idea of Stacks Ascent, a program for builders to develop and launch ultimately their proof of work. So I say proof of work because for people who are working on a startup actively, this is a good program for you. If you are a builder, but you are not working on a startup, but maybe you have ideas, or if you don't have ideas, maybe you don't want to be a startup founder who's building a rocket ship right now, but you just want to get help or support getting your proof of work up and going, Stacks Ascent is the ultimate program to do that. This is a program that's designed to equip builders to put their proof of work together, amplify it, and to get talking to other builders and other players in the ecosystem about their projects and their proof of work. So there's 5 phases of how Stacks Ascent works. Each of these is laid out on different milestones, all on the same path. So for every builder who comes into the Stacks Ascent program, they're all starting at the same level of the Trailblazer, which gives builders access to an exclusive community. You then move into the 3rd phase, Mountaineer, more grants, a developer spotlight opportunities, and also more support on a design element with each person's projects. And then the 4th phase is the Alpinist, more higher grant funding opportunities to be eligible for presenting and demo day opportunities, and getting training from a variety of different partners that we have in this program to offer builders go-to-market support. And then the 5th phase is the Stack Sherpa, even yet higher developer grant opportunities, investor introductions, investor training, more partner opportunities for builders to learn how to put together a really effective pitch when it comes to their project to the right investors to make that ultimate match. And as well as other ecosystem leaders in our community. So across these 5 phases of Stacks Ascent, each builder is constantly working on their project, achieving certain milestones, and unlocking all of these opportunities to further grow their projects. So why are we doing this, and why does this matter? As builders, everyone knows that building can be a very difficult and lonely journey. If you think about builders who go through accelerators or builders who have received venture capital, they do have a support system. You have your peers in your accelerator. You have the other founders in the network of the VCs that you raise money from. But if you're a builder at the earliest stage of your journey, it is a dark, lonely journey. And we want to provide the support and the resources and the guidance to give people who are in that journey a little bit more light, a little bit more support, and more opportunities to get out of that place of lonely building as fast as possible. And we do that with a variety of grants, mentorship opportunities, connections, and a very supportive, vibrant community of other builders who are in the exact same place as you. So if any of that sounds interesting, you can scan this QR code. This will take you to the Stacks Ascent website, or just go to stacks.org/ascent. The other two programs that I mentioned in this talk were Code for Stacks. There's the URL for Code for Stacks. And then the last thing was an ongoing hackathon that's currently taking place right now. It's a virtual hackathon. It runs until May 20th. So if you're just hearing about it for the first time, you have lots of days and even weeks ahead to get involved and to start building. And you can go to b25.devpost.com to learn more about that hackathon. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful and you learned something. If you want to get in touch, you can find us from the Stacks Ascent website, and I encourage you all to do so. And I look forward to meeting you all in the Stacks Ascent community. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Munib here. Excited to be talking to you all and give you a little bit preview of what I think the state of the Stacks project is, where we're heading, what are some of the things that I'm excited about. Let's sort of like dive in. So I think before we sort of like jump into like what's coming up, what are some of the things that I'm excited about, I think it's always great to take a moment to appreciate everything that has happened so far, all the progress that we have already made. I think it's pretty clear, sort of like out in the industry, how Stacks has emerged as sort of like the blue chip Bitcoin L2 project, right? Like because it has such a rich history. It was the first ever SEC qualified offering. And then it has sort of like maintained that blue chip status by sort of like, always producing high quality work, attracting high quality investors, high quality builders. And I think that has been something that's really standing out and something that we're super, super proud of. Even though I think there obviously has been a market correction all across, I think some of the actual metrics of usage are pretty strong in terms of TVL, in terms of like capital being deployed in real applications. And that's really exciting to me. Like there's this saying that, when I was going through Y Combinator, Paul Graham and the YC people always used to say like, build something people want. And the best way to build something people want is build something for yourself, because you at least understand yourself as a user. And I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is that I feel that the product, and by the product I really mean the Stacks chain and the apps built on it, it's something that I truly enjoy using myself. I think that's such a great feeling. Like imagine, obviously when SBDC launched, you know, well, we have Bitcoin now, and you have BTC in your wallet, and it actually moves in seconds with 100% Bitcoin security. As soon as a Bitcoin block comes, the fees are low, the wallet UX is great, and you can actually deploy things into DeFi and use it. So you like it's like I'm a user myself, right? And I see other people around me, they're actively using things, and it's almost like a joy. And that happened very recently. I think until the Nakamoto upgrade and SBDC launch, this thing wasn't there. So that's something like I'm personally, you know, super excited about. Also, in terms of like we've seen a lot of interest, a lot of new people coming in. Sex was the first project that reached the all-time high March of last year, and we were sort of like, you know, the seventh fastest developer ecosystem as you know, indexed by Electric Capital, and sort of like the only Bitcoin project that shows up there. So I think there's a lot to be sort of like, you know, proud of, and the things that, you know, the ecosystem and core developers have achieved. And most of you are sort of familiar with, you know, the Nakamoto launch. But I want to go over SBDC a little bit more. I think SBDC, one thing that I sort of like really appreciated is that I think the cadence of core development has become much smoother, much more predictable. All the launch for SBDC, they basically went live on time. And I think that's very hard to do with complicated projects. You've seen, you know, a delay in Nakamoto, but I do think like with Adriano showing leadership, like on the core development side, it really feels like it's a much better sort of like machine that's running and actually like consistently making progress and delivering things. And I think that was great. Obviously, the caps filled up pretty quickly. We first did a 1,000 BTC cap, then we did a 3,000 BTC cap. I think the 3,001 was gone within 24 hours. And that was like really amazing to see that there's so much interest. It's like roughly $300 million in capital that came in. And obviously now we are looking at, you know, opening up withdrawals and taking it from there. There are like major institutions that sort of like came in to Stacks. And that I felt that went a little under the radar. Like, for example, if you you know, take the example of Jump, like Jump is a huge institution in the industry. They heavily sort of like deploy capital in Solana. I would even go to the extent to say that, you know, part of the success of Solana is actually people like Jump coming in and really being active users of that chain. And I think Jump doing that with Stacks, coming in and sort of like, you know, deploying capital, because when they go, they also like, you know, become very active participants of the network. It's not like, you know, they just deploy some capital and sort of like forget about it. So for me, like that, things like that, like these institutions coming in and using the product is actually a great sign, right? Like, so you want a lot of Bitcoin capital is actually in the hands of institutions, right? So if you're that institutional chain that's attracting a lot of Bitcoin DeFi activity, I think that's an amazing sign. So what's next, right? Some of the things that I am pretty excited about is more R&D work on improving SBDC. I think we definitely want SBDC to be sort of like the primary Bitcoin asset out there, like even used for payments, right? Like if I think hundreds of millions of people are going to come and they're going to do Bitcoin payments, they're going to deploy capital in DeFi. I think we want that to happen in Stacks. And I think that's a very clear sort of like North Star that we have, and there's like active R&D work happening on sort of like, you know, new improvements and versions of SBDC, and we'll share more details about it. But over here, I just want to give like a very sort of like high level overview. Another thing that I'm personally very sort of like intellectually curious about and interested in is, as you know, we look at the next 5 years, 10 years, we want to have very clear sort of like value accrual to STX as well, like even from a tokenomics and protocol design and protocol revenue perspective. So there are some early work streams that are sort of like happening there right now. There are different ideas of like, you know, for example, you know, is there some sort of a way to allow people to pay SBDC gas fees, and some portion of that gas fees is actually going to protocol revenue, which can be used for various things, for ecosystem development and so on. So these are pretty like high level at this point, but something that I am personally extremely interested in, because I think getting that right, having the right flywheel, the right economic flywheel, whereas more users come in and sort of like use Bitcoin on Stacks, there is a built-in mechanism for value accrual and network growth. I think that's something that's going to be super interesting, and obviously we'll share more details as the working groups make more progress towards it. But I know the time is short. There is so much going on in the ecosystem, but I would just take a pause and look at the opportunity ahead of us. Bitcoin has clearly shown dominance, in the recent years. All the institutional capital is really going to Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance remains extremely high, and people are now sort of like questioning that, why would they go to like, anything else other than Bitcoin? And I think Stacks is in a very unique position where it is the largest project, sort of like clear, sort of like leader, and we have this amazing opportunity where we can go and show leadership and sort of like build whatever else is necessary. It might be like, more better designs of SBDC, or, better sort of like, value accrual mechanisms on the protocol side, whatever else is needed, but really sort of like bring like, hundreds of millions of users and be the top sort of like, Bitcoin project that brings BTC everywhere. And I think that's an opportunity that I'm extremely passionate about, extremely excited about, and looking forward to working on it in 2025. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for an outstanding event. And thank you, everyone in the community, our builders, partners, and to our teams for all that you do and contribute to the Stacks ecosystem. Today, we talked about how Stacks is positioning for the year ahead in 2025. We couldn't do it without each and every one of you and the contributions, the time, and the commitment that you have to Stacks and the future of Bitcoin as well. Stay tuned for our next town hall taking place in May virtually. Until then, we'll see you at Token 2049 and Bitcoin Vegas. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Take care. See you soon.
Yeah.